I once dated a girl who had pet ducks, and I would help her clean the wading pool that she kept in the backyard, and after we'd refill it, the ducks would hop back in, and the water would grow instantly murky. Because, apparently, when a duck starts swimming, the first thing that it does is defecates. I think my 1-year-old might think she's a duck because bath time is not fun. And this brings us to the topic of Stephen King. I was browsing the Amazon bookstore on my Kindle, and I found his brain dump titled Guns. And I was like, hey, cool. An argument I haven't heard before. It's not by a talking head, so maybe it'll actually have some substance to it. I was hopeful. And he brought up a good point. He tells the story of how he'd once written a novel about a deranged teenage boy who shot up his school teacher and held his classmates hostage. And after publishing that book, there were some copycats out there, some kids who had done similar things, and they had some way or another been associated with the book. And so King decided that even though he had not caused those boys to do anything criminal, that he would do the responsible thing. He would make the environment a better place, and he would remove that novel from circulation. And so he asks a question. I think it's a good question. Why can't Rock River Arms do the same thing? Okay. Took him a long time to get to that point, though. I have this heuristic, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but it seems to me that if your means of rebutting an argument from someone who disagrees with you is to diagnose them with a mental disorder such as paranoia, you haven't thought very long about the argument. And so King does this. He says to those crazy teabaggers, he says that, they're so paranoid of the federal government that they will not put up with any form of gun control whatsoever. And I think that's very intellectually dishonest of King to do. So these crazies, because they fear the government, they have to have their weapons of mass destruction, he calls them. A semi-automatic rifle with a 30-round magazine is a weapon of mass destruction. There are actual weapons of mass destruction out there. There are weapons that can level entire city blocks. There are weapons that can have entire towns coughing their lungs out. Those things exist. And they are inevitably monopolized by the state. States have killed orders of magnitude more people than Klebold and Cho and Lanza and whoever else combined. I think it's incredibly unfair for King to say that people who recognize this truth are being paranoid. This is not maybe they could. This is they have. History is rife with examples of states killing millions upon millions of people. And it seems to me like maybe we need to look at this in full perspective. Someone who has a rifle, they can kill people. You kill a lot of people. Versus someone who has bomber planes. Why do you fear the unhinged sociopathic individual? I mean, you should fear those people, but why do you fear them so much more than you fear an entity that has no humanity? that has no conscience, and that is really, really hard to kill? Is it paranoia that recognizes the destructive power of the state? Is it really? Now, it's true. The AK that I have locked up in my basement right now, it's not going to stop the state if they choose to napalm my neighborhood. It's not. It is also perfectly logical to say that not every person who wants to disarm me also wants to tyrannize me. Okay. But the argument that the gun nuts out there make is that every person who wants to tyrannize me will first disarm me. The weapon, according to them, is not the thing that I, will shoot to save my life. It is the it's the bird that you carry with you down into the mines, right? It's the litmus test. It's the alarm system. Because anyone who does want to disarm you, maybe it's time to start analyzing their intentions. That's the claim. And that's the claim that those gun nuts make that no disarmer seems to be willing to address. Because all the world's lawyers in the most judicious of courts aren't going to help you when that comes. Is that paranoia? Maybe. But it seems to me like it's a non-argument to just say, well, you're crazy, and then call it over with. And it's disappointing, because Stephen King had a good argument, like a clean wading pool. But then he, like all the other political ducks, hopped right in and started shitting in it.